Really, our Resistance are one of my favorite PS3 games, and really one of my favorite shooters of all time. Well, I really want to see this franchise brought back, either through a remake or some sort of sequel, or some sort of prequel event, where I want to see a Resistance 4 or some sort of Retribution Part 2, right? And yeah, but I don't know what Sony is doing. Like, they keep a lot of these older franchises that, like on the shelf, then you never see them again. I don't know what happened. Like Infamous, Killzone, this one, right? Jack and Daxter, and so on, right? But yeah, definitely, I really want to see this franchise come back. And yeah, and if you have the PS3, I highly recommend picking it up. If you have, I think, PlayStation Plus, I don't know if you can play it on the newer PlayStations. I definitely check this game out, right? If you're on the PS3, I highly recommend it. Resistance 3, really what makes this game special, like, is the weapons. Because it is Insomniac, so it has that Ratchet and Clankness to it, like, for the weapons, right? So, for example, a weapon wheel, you get tons of different weapons, right? And yeah, so these weapons, as the series went on, right, it went from 1 to 2, Retribution, like in the PSP, to this one. I believe you had mobile games, the weapons changed over time, right? In this one, though, like the weapon tree or the weapons, a selection that was badass. You had the Magnum, right? The 44 Magnum, right? So this Magnum shoots out explosive bolts. You had the bullseye, right? Which is basically like it was like in the other game. So literally the main fire shoots out like a laser bullets. And the secondary fire shoots out like this auto aim thing. So auto aim where you constantly, if you hit the target, it doesn't matter where you're aiming. You constantly hit the target. The auger, which is throughout the series, it shoots through walls, right? And this one introduced newer weapons, the cryogenesis weapon, which froze things. You literally freeze things, right? The cryo weapon was very fun to use, right? And you have like a secondary fire, like a wind, like a blowing wind. The mutator gun, where the mutator gun, it literally, it's kind of like this infected weapon that take out the chimera enemies very quickly. And yeah, a crowd control, and yeah. So other weapons too as well. That was, I reintroduced the what was it again? The assault rifle too. The assault rifle, the Rossmore shotgun, the marksman, which is new. The marksman, which is a new weapon, right? It's more for accuracy and damage. But the marksman has like this turret, so you literally the secondary fire is like a turret. It's pretty cool. You have the atomizer. So the atomizer, which is like this electricity gun, right? It's kind of like this a close range electricity gun. But the secondary fire is kind of like, it's kind of like this crowd control, kind of black hole. Not really a black hole, but it's like this field that literally sucks all the enemies towards it. There is the sniper rifle, which I thought I love using, as a sniper rifle. The sniper rifle, which, those are like a secondary fire. The secondary fire does like high damage. It's a very high damage weapon. Yeah, so the weapons they're all very unique. I really like, in terms of, especially like when you get the more powerful weapons, the mutator, the cryo gun. I'm not sure if there's like a new game plus. I never actually tried it, but where you can play the entire game again on like a hard difficulty, but you have all the weapons with you. The mutator weapon, which is probably my favorite weapon, is super overpowered. But the mutator weapon, right, literally, you got late in the game. You got very late in the game, where there's literally only one chapter left in the game. But, I would have, I like that, like in a new game plus mode. The bullseye weapon, which you got, very, you get literally like in every other game. But the bullseye weapon, you have for the entire game here, right? What's weird is that you don't get the assault rifle until later on in the game. Till like chapter 11, 12, and yeah. So going into the enemies as well, the enemies here, right? So literally, like I talked about like in the other one, you had different chimera, enemies, right? Chimera subspecies. You have, I believe they're called the stalkers or whatever. The stalkers or the leapers, which they have like these long range weapons, but they literally hop. They have these high hops and they move very fast, right? You have the regular, a chimera. They carry at the bullseye rifle, right? They're like the regular chimera foot soldiers. You have the heavily armored auger, right? So these ones, I'd use the auger weapon. You have the enemies. So I like these swarm enemies that they kind of introduced here. What they call again? I can't remember what they call, stalkers or something like that. They come at you in huge waves, and they're pretty cool, right? They're like these super skinny chimera, right? They're kind of like these humanoid, where they just they were literally turned into the chimera, and yeah, but just literally mowing through them like with the shotgun is pretty cool. You have this a gorilla like chimera, which is pretty cool, which is like its own boss. You have robots, so the chimera, they have their own robots and mechs, right? That's just pretty cool. And yeah, as you go throughout, at the game visually too as well, you see the different visual styles in the environment. I like the level design, right? The level design is pretty cool, right? But especially like for a PS3 game, it's very impressive in, so, a lot of the stuff like the visuals, the mechanics, the level design, right? Sometimes though, you will get stuck because there's like this awkward thing where you gotta hold square to open like a certain door. So there'll be a certain door that you have to open, or like some sort of kind of a barricade, but sometimes it's not always visible or clear where you're supposed to go. In like these tight spaces. And yeah, but like other than that though, like you're mostly in wide open spaces in like massive shootouts, right? And finding cover is very important, and all those things. Going back to like, in terms of like fighting enemies and big mini bosses, the main thing is finding the weak points. So the weak points, like, you'll find like a certain area and the enemy will highlight up like a red. You see like a red kind of like highlight, light like on the enemy. You shoot that. That's the weak point like of the enemy. It is pretty cool, right? Especially for the gorilla. So the gorilla like a chimera, right? And yeah, as you get further into the game, you start to see the infection kind of taking over, and you see literally a chimera is like this alien infection, like this alien kind of species taking over humanity, and you literally lose hope. This is the 1950s again, because they weren't as technologically advanced as we are now, but even then, a chimera, they literally overpower humanity, especially like in the last 3 games. You really feel it here now. It's like, okay, this is do or die. This is all or nothing. It is all on you to stop the chimera terraforming like on the planet, and yeah, so you get the sense of urgency. This one deals, so Retribution dealt in Europe, so you had characters with European accents. This one dealt with America, so the 1950s America, where literally it is doomed. It is like a doomsday event and apocalypse. Everything is a resistance. You're literally at the last line of defense, right, against the chimera enemies. Health items. So what I like, health items, you'll see like these little, a cylinder shape, like green things like on the ground. You pick them up, right? You pick them up for your health. And yeah, ammo, right? Ammo is like literally everywhere, right? Sometimes you have to look to find ammo actually. Bonus journals. I pick up these journals for trophies, right? However, at the journals, it is best to look up a guide, because literally a journal could be anywhere, and you'll go through an area and literally miss a journal. So the journal, sometimes they're like written journal or like they're audio journals, in that there'll be like a radio, and then there'll be someone talking about a certain something lore in the world, and yeah. So yeah, I can look for these journals, right? But it's best to look at like a guide. Mission structure in the game, like, we'll have you doing like a lot of things, like protect this area. It's mostly kill all the enemies in one area before you move on, right? Like I said before, there is some awkward moments where they're like these kind of like these old elevators, and you have to activate them, right? So it's kind of like an elevator, like the building like is in ruin, right? But there's this old elevator that's still working somehow, and you have to activate a certain lever. And yeah, so it's not always, again, some of this stuff is not always visible that you have to do. But yeah, but Like I said before, for the most part, the level design involves you killing enemies and more enemies and more enemies. That's the magic of, really resistance games, right? You will die, especially it's actually basically like on a hard difficulty, because you do get the sense of urgency. Going to cover, use the auger shield, right? Use the better weapons, right? You have to save ammo, and yeah, you will die quicker on the hard difficulties, but again, it is a more sense of urgency, more suspense, and yeah, and I really like the character here that they have here. Like, it's pretty good. I like his dialogue, right? And with the other, I don't remember other names, but like the other character, the old man, the old Russian guy that helps you, right? He's like a scientist, and you really feel at the end like an era here, right? This is the last line of a defense against the Chimera, and yeah, really like with this game too as well. I remember back in the day they had something called what's it called? PlayStation Move for the PS3. I never actually used it, but it looked cool. It's like like some sort of a kinetic movement. So you move as you move the controls. So you move your body with the controls. It is pretty cool, right? I saw it, but I never actually used it. Yeah, I never actually had a PlayStation to move, but that was an option. And I don't think online doesn't work anymore, unfortunately. It is an older game, right? Now, I would love to see this brought back. Like, definitely Resistance, I really want to see this brought back, right? And yeah, so yeah, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.